The EFL Championship is the most entertaining league in the world, in my opinion. This is the Football Insider channel, and today we are going to talk about the Championship, and in particular the promotion race, which looks like it could be one of the most interesting in recent memory. So please let me know in the comments who you think is going to get promoted from the Championship this season. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this sort of content. Let's dive into the video. So the first place to start is with the parachute payment teams, and they are the teams that every season in the Championship are the ones that are most likely to get promoted. We continually see them dominate the top end of the Championship, and this season we have 4 parachute payment teams. We've got Ipswich, we've got Southampton, we've got Leicester, and we've got Sheffield United. Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester, of course, relegated from the Premier League last season, and Sheffield United lost the Championship playoff final, which meant that they go into their second parachute payment season. And of those 4 teams, interestingly, the only one that currently sits in the playoffs right now is Leicester City. They're the only ones who have won more than one game. They've picked up 3 wins. Sheffield United are without a win so far. We'll talk about them in a second. And Ipswich and Southampton only have 1 win. And look at the league table. Southampton are 15th. Ipswich are 1 place ahead in 14th. And Sheffield United haven't picked up any points this season. They've also sacked their manager and brought in Chris Wilder, who left at the end of last season. So it's been a bit of a chaotic start for Sheffield United. And I think of those 4 teams, Leicester arguably have the strongest team on paper, but they have a looming potential points deduction sitting somewhere in the future, and that could obviously hamper them. If they were deducted, say, 6, 8, 10 points, that could really affect their chances of getting automatically promoted. Ipswich are arguably the most stable of the teams. They've still got Kieran McKenna in there, who's obviously been there for years, taking them from League One to the Premier League, and is stuck with them after relegation. They have had a difficult start to the season, but did win last weekend against Sheffield United 5-0, which might kickstart their season. They also have a lot of squad depth, and you think when that Saturday, Tuesday Championship slog really kicks in, Ipswich will have the squad and the quality to deal with that really well. So Ipswich are probably the one that's most likely to go up as champions this season. Southampton are very interesting. They obviously had a disaster last season in the Premier League. They brought in a manager in Will Still, who isn't experienced in the Premier League, but of course has lots of experience in France. And yeah, it's interesting to see how they've started the season. Just 1 win, which came on the opening day. They drew against Portsmouth at the weekend in a local derby, and it's been a bit of an underwhelming start for them. But maybe it's just a case of, Southampton finding their feet in the Championship and, having to deal with the demons of last season where they really struggled and didn't really win all that many games. We've also got Sheffield United, who've lost all 5 games, as mentioned before. They've brought in Chris Wilder, which will surely make them harder to beat and will result in them picking up points. I've got no doubt. They're certainly not going to be finishing in the relegation zone come the end of the season, you'd think. But it is worth noting that last season Leeds only lost 4 games, Burnley only lost 2 games. So Sheffield United have already lost more games than both of those teams who got promoted last season automatically. So that is really, really interesting in itself. They're going to have to win a lot of games of football if they are to be anywhere near the top 2 this season. And I think all of this adds together to create a sense that the parachute payment teams, for the first time in a long time, feel very vulnerable this season. It doesn't feel like they're all locks. Maybe the Ipswich side, I feel like Ipswich probably have the strongest chance of getting promoted just because of the stability you have and the fact that they essentially built a Championship super team when they were in the Premier League. But the other teams, there's a lot of uncertainty there, to say that. It'd be really difficult for Sheffield United to, turn their season into a promotion campaign. It'd be really difficult for, Leicester if they pick up a points deduction to do that. And Southampton haven't had a great start this season. It looks like they are not going to be necessarily as strong as many thought. Let's talk about the other contenders, because it doesn't matter how weak these parachute payment teams are in some respects if the other teams in the Championship aren't good enough to overtake them. But I think we've got a top 3 currently of Middlesbrough, Stoke and Bristol City, which are very, very interesting. We've also got West Brom and Coventry lurking in the top 6, as well as Leicester. And I think it's very interesting. All those teams have got reasons to think that they can be potentially closing the gap on those parachute payment teams and earning a promotion. Last season we saw Sunderland go up. They got ahead of one of the parachute payment teams. They got promoted at the end of the season. But is there any reason why, maybe two of these teams can't get promoted. And that's what we're kind of talking about now. So Middlesbrough have had a really strong start to the season, 4 wins and a draw under Rob Edwards. And they've got a manager who actually knows how to get a non-parachute payment team out of this league. He did it with Luton a few years ago. Can he do it again with Middlesbrough? And this is a Middlesbrough team that is full of quality. They are a club that sells players and reinvests. And it feels like after years of sort of nearly moments under Michael Carrick and Chris Wilder, they're finally ticking in the right direction. And look, it can all change with a few results, we know that. But it does feel like this Middlesbrough team might well be the real deal this season. Stoke are also a very interesting team. They've had a really strong start of the season, and most people were tipping them to be at the other end of the league table, if we're being fair. But they've picked up 4 wins from 5. They beat Birmingham this past weekend, another team that people are talking about as being a potential promotion contender. And they've got Mark Robbins in there, who's obviously got bags of experience. And could it be that he breaks them out of that lower, mid-table mediocrity and sort of just sludge they've been stuck in for years since they were first relegated from the Premier League? It actually feels like there's positivity. It's great to see Stoke Stadium, full with people, because I'm used to seeing them when they've been in the Championship of it being, full of red seats. But now it feels like the club's really ticking in the right direction. They've all bought into Mark Robbins and everything that's happening there. So I think Stoke are a really interesting case of a team that has maybe come out of nowhere as a potential promotion contender. And we do sometimes see, as we saw last season with Sunderland, not many people were tipping them to get promoted. I think Opta had Sunderland finishing 21st in the Championship at the start of last season. Could Stoke do what Sunderland did and surprise everyone and put up a real promotion push? Then we've got Bristol City, who lost their manager in the summer, but they were a playoff team last season, and it feels like under Struber they've actually been able to maintain a lot of that momentum. And I think a lot of people are expecting with that managerial change that they might struggle. But from everything we've seen so far this season, Bristol City look like a very, very strong team and could well be in that playoff mix, and dare I say even pushing those top 2 teams. And that's really, really interesting after losing their manager in the summer, Liam Manning, to Norwich. But yeah, Bristol City have had a really strong start. West Brom looked pretty solid under Ryan Mason. They did lose last time out against Derby at home, but they did play very well. But it feels like he has them playing a really good style of play, and it feels like West Brom have got a chance this season of getting back up to the Premier League after a few years away. And then we've got Coventry City, who I think are possibly the strongest of the non-parachute payment teams. They have had a decent start this season. They've won 2, drawn 3, but this Coventry team is known for being a slow starter. That's been the thing that's sort of undone them, but this season they've started pretty well. They've got 9 points on the board. They had that massive 7-1 win against QPR. They've scored 15 goals in 5 games. They create bundles of chances. Even this past weekend against Norwich they drew, but they created all sorts of opportunities and should have won that game pretty comfortably. And I think I look at Coventry and I think, do you know what, this team might be the biggest threat to the parachute payment teams, and this one could be the one that really breaks through, even though they are currently 6th in the table. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Then outside of those, you've got teams like Norwich, you've got teams like Birmingham, you've got teams like Millwall, Swansea. There's lots of teams there who have got good squads, good managers, and feel like potential top 6 contenders, and it feels attainable right now with how slow some of the parachute payments teams have started the season. So what does this mean? Well, it feels like the first time in a long time that we're going to have potentially a really, really interesting promotion battle. I mean, last season it was interesting, but it was Leeds, Burnley and Sheffield United. It was 3 parachute payment teams all going for it. This season, though, I feel like we might have some non-parachute payment teams. And if we're going to have a championship season where maybe the promotion tally needs to be more like 85 points rather than the 100 points we've seen the last few years, that means there's going to be much more teams able to achieve that points total. It's going to be much more teams beating each other every week. Whereas in recent years, it's felt very much like the top sort of 2 or 3 teams just win every game, and you don't end up with that exciting battle where multiple teams are in there. But as well, you've got that playoff battle, and that's always fascinating. Could we see maybe a top 7 or 8 this season who are all competing for them positions? We don't see a dead cert that's going to be running away with it. Is it possible that we're going to have a promotion battle that includes a lot of teams and goes right to the end of the season? And it feels like there's ingredients there right now which suggest that could happen, which makes it fascinating for Championship fans. This could be the first time since the 2016-17 season that we see 2 non-parachute payment teams get promoted. So then it was Newcastle as champions, with Brighton and Huddersfield went up. Could this year we see maybe 1 parachute payment team go up, but then 2 non-parachute payment teams go up? And that would be brilliant, because over the last 30 promotions from the Championship. Only 11 have went up as non-parachute payment teams, so basically 2/3. Always, 2 of the 3 spots pretty much always go to parachute payment teams, and it feels like that isn't sustainable. It's not a sustainable model to have such yo-yoing between the Premier League and Championship, seeing the same teams coming up and down. So my verdict on this is I think this really could be the year where 2 non-parachute payment teams get promoted. I look at teams like Middlesbrough, Coventry, I look at Stoke, and I think, why not? Why can't they take advantage of maybe a bit of sluggishness from teams like Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton, and Sheffield United? Why can't they beat them to the punch and get into the top 6 this season and win the playoffs and go up as champions and finish second in the league? I think this could be a really interesting year for that, because we've got a lot of teams that have got stable owners, they've got strong squads, and they've got really good managers who haven't got parachute payments. So it's going to be a fascinating race this season to see who gets promoted. And I think if we did see 2 go up of who are non-parachute payment teams, it would really help the English pyramid and help spread the wealth around the game, because right now we're sick of seeing the same basically 23 teams largely swapping between the Premier League and Championship. That's not right and that's not fair. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think anyone can break the cycle this season? Can we see 2 teams, maybe even 3 teams who don't have parachute payments get promoted? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. We'll catch you for another video very soon.